So we are recording, just so everybody knows. Hi and happy Friday. We are thrilled to have you join us for Placing Your Voice, How to Identify Speaking and Publication Opportunities. My name is Amy Goldstein. I'm the founder of Grayson Allen. It is an advisory boutique that focuses on legal recruiting and career coaching services. I graduated from Tulane Law School and also went to Rutgers College.
Hi, I'm Randy Rosenblatt. I'm the founder of Upward Stride, a business development consulting, coaching and training firm that works with attorneys and law firms on how to develop business, generate revenue. I have a JD and an MBA from Tulane as well, and I have my undergraduate degree from Michigan. So we have 30 minutes of substantive content that we'll take you through. You can feel free to chime in the chat feature at the bottom. If you have a question, if you could just do us a favor and put a Q in front of it so that we can see it either while we're going through or at the end and we can address it. And we'll try to address questions as we go, but we'll definitely turn to them at the end when we open up the floor for the 30 minutes for conversation. So to take you through the agenda, we're going to start with why placing your voice is important. Then we'll move on to identifying your audience, finding speaking engagements, finding publication opportunities, getting quoted or featured. Then we'll drill down a little bit, and then we'll turn to takeaways and wrapping up the content and turning to the 30 minutes of conversation.
So why is placing your voice important? Well, your voice, both verbal and written, establishes you as a thought leader, allows you to be an expert, and one to watch. So this is integral to your reputation. It strengthens it. It also raises your profile and expands your network, all of which are key components to growing your business and your career opportunities. But before you jump in, you need to figure out where you want to be and why you want to be there. Do you want to be a thought leader, an authority in a particular practice area? Do you want to be known among certain industries, maybe attract specific clients? Do you want to break into a new field or maybe target a new opportunity? All of these things do require an ongoing presence, but what you're targeting from where you want to present depends on what your goals are. Randy, you're mute.
Thanks. So first you have to know who your audience is. So who's your avatar? Who do you want to be talking to? And really define them in your mind. What do they look like? What do they eat for breakfast? Where do they live? Where do they work? What do they read? What kind of podcasts are they listening to? Where are they hanging out, right? So that one kind of dream persona, where are they? And to help you figure it out, you know your practice area, you know what you want to be doing, perhaps what you even want to be talking about. So you figure out this avatar. One way to help is to start checking out the websites of your competitors. So for example, if you are an employment lawyer, like a couple people on this call, who are your top competitors? Hop over to their website, to their LinkedIn. Where are they speaking? Where are they writing? Who are they talking to? Right? It'll start to give you some ideas of where you maybe want to be and where you should be. Google your practice area, see what's coming up in terms of who the audiences are, what the conferences look like, what the publications look like. Talk to your colleagues and friends who perhaps have explored this space of speaking and writing and get their input on it as well. And then plug into the groups you're already a part of, where you already have a network, where you're already involved. And again, inquire as to what other people are doing in this space. And as you identify your audience, also identify what they want to talk about. Keep a list, whether it's in Microsoft OneNote, posted on the side of your desk, whatever the case is. Keep a list of these topics as they pop up and know where you're keeping them. So as you start to think about speaking and writing, you're developing a list of potential topics. And that's going to help drive both your speaking opportunities and your writing opportunities. With any of these suggestions and everything we talk about, of course, you have to make sure you're in compliance with, first off, the legal ethics rules and any types of advertising, of course. And then if you're part of a larger firm, what that firm kind of dictates as the rules that guide you in this.
Start with speaking engagements. And as you start to look for opportunities, start with the low-hanging fruit, those opportunities that are already in your orbit. For example, if you're at a firm that has a marketing team, make sure that they know that you're interested in speaking and what topics you would like to speak about. They may already have things that you could plug right into, or they can help you go out and find those opportunities. Oftentimes firms have panel seats tied to sponsorships. So make sure that the firm also knows that you're happy to sit on a panel. And lean into organizations that you're already a part of. You could deliver content either for them or through them, organize or facilitate a panel discussion, a fireside chat on their platform. Start with the people that you already know. But then once you move beyond that, for expanding your reach, there are CLE opportunities through PLI and other vendors. And also oftentimes firms participate in CLEs through bar association membership. They are great platforms for hosting events. And you don't actually have to be a member to present to a bar association. But not only do they provide a platform, they also drive an audience. It's built in. Podcasts are everywhere now. They are every shape and size, every possible topic. So look for opportunities where your avatar is, where people you want to target are listening to things, and then reach out to the host. It is best to have a topic in mind for that so you can show that you can add value to their audience. And don't forget about your alma mater. Rekindle contacts there. And as an alumni, you can plug into events that are already on tap, or you can create your own. And also keep in mind the larger university. You don't only have to approach your school. You can ask contacts at your school for introductions to the larger community.
Industry and practice area events are everywhere, and they are large, they are small, they're focused, they're broad. They are often prepared and arranged for, scheduled pretty early. So if you're interested in pursuing something in that arena that's a little bit more formal, definitely get those on your radar sooner. But they're a great way for you to either, like I said, get specific or get broad. And there's many out there that you probably don't know about, just because they are certainly in abundance. Pro bono organizations is another great one. Whether it's something related to your practice or not, is there a way to weave your substantive practice area into something that organization would be interested in? And again, another way to just get out there and start providing content. Pro bono organizations are often looking for it. Affinity groups is another one. Again, there's no shortage of them in your local community, in the industry. Again, they want content. So put yourself out there as offering content, and you'll be really pleasantly surprised to see those who take you up on an opportunity to kind of give you the floor. And I think this 30 minutes of content and conversation is the perfect example of the next one. If it doesn't exist, just create it, build the platform, invite people, put it out there. It doesn't have to already be in existence for you to actually make it happen. So if the floor that you want isn't necessarily already set, or the table you want isn't already necessarily set, then just do it yourself. So how do you pursue these opportunities? First thing, probably most important, is to speak up. So who do you know that is putting together CLEs, that chairs a committee at the bar, that hosts a podcast, whatever the case is? Reach out to them. Are they the right person to speak to? Maybe, maybe not, but they can likely get you to the right person. So start with a list of the organizations of where you know people, right? That's, again, to Amy's point, kind of the low-hanging fruit. You already have a way in. We are still months away at the earliest from in person, and there's a lot of interest in content generally. Organizations want to engage their memberships, their communities, whatever the case is. And the logistics of putting together programs right now is really minimal. So there's no travel, there's no really much of a mic test or video test or anything like that. So it's really minimal. So it's a great time to start getting involved in this way. And just take advantage of the many organizations that are teeing up more content than usual because of the minimal setup required and because of a lot more interest in actually engaging the people that they have in their community. As you're doing this legwork, also prepare to actually speak. That might mean practicing in a mirror. That might mean practicing with family or friends and doing a run through. It also might mean joining a Toastmasters group or something like that. Whatever the case is, make sure that you get yourself ready to actually secure one of these speaking engagements in parallel to actually securing the engagement itself so that you're ready for it when the opportunity comes.
Now we're going to talk about publication opportunities. This is probably even a little bit easier than speaking opportunities because there are so many publications that are out there and publishing on a daily basis. There is an ongoing need for content. Decide the purpose of your writing. What ultimately are you looking to convey and accomplish? And going back to that avatar, your ideal target audience, keep that in mind when you're thinking about what you want out there. What do you want that person to know and to hear? And once you do identify that goal, you want your writing to connect in some way. You can still have a very broad range of topics, but you do want to have a common thread. So give thought to whether you want to be a subject matter expert. Maybe you want to write about the practice of law in general, or about the constant evolution in the industry or in practice areas, or something connected to the law. But maybe you actually want to write about something that you're passionate about, that gives you a little bit more dimension and lets people kind of see behind the curtain and know you a little bit more personally. That's great too. It's just that you have to be strategic about it. And remember that everything that you do, especially with publication, once it's out there, it's out there. It is essentially part of your resume, whether you put it on your resume or not. So you do want to be thoughtful and mindful of the fact that when you are writing, you are adding to your story and it will be part of it. So you just want to make sure that it makes sense. So as you start or continue down the path, if you've already started doing some writing, you want to have a few articles drafted, and if not a few full articles, you want to have at least some ideas and thoughts to share. Publications respond better when there's some content that they can consider specifically, as opposed to you just saying you'd like to write for them. And also get a sense of the editorial calendars. A lot of magazines have specific issues for certain topics or certain either quarterly or monthly publications. And so you want to be pitching your idea as it relates to when they'll be looking for that content. And there are so many, as I said, publications to have on the radar. We're going to run through just a few of those. So there are broad legal publications such as the American Lawyer, ACC Docket, Inside Counsel, the ABA Law Journal, Law 360, ALM publications, and there are law journals in every state. Then you have general business publications like Harvard Business Review, Business Insider, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc. They're all looking for content. So are the blogs, popular industry blogs. We all know Above the Law. There's also JD Supra. And then going a little more old school, there are local and community newsletters. There are newsletters that come out of your alma mater, which are also fair game and should absolutely be considered for reaching your audience. And then your firm, especially if you're at a larger firm or at a company, there are blogs, there are news alerts, there are plenty of opportunities to put pen to paper and get your thoughts out there.
So anyone who has heard Amy and I speak before or knows us personally knows that we are truly strong proponents of LinkedIn from a business development standpoint and from a career and recruiting standpoint. And in terms of publishing, and frankly, in terms of when you're speaking also, take advantage of LinkedIn and all it has to offer in this space. You can publish articles directly through LinkedIn, or you can showcase the articles that you've written elsewhere, and you could showcase them on LinkedIn and feature them at the top of your profile. When you do write and you are scheduled to speak, let your LinkedIn audience know about it. It is a fantastic way to let them know what you're up to and to truly share with them things that you're doing in your business and in your career. You should also view your LinkedIn posts as content. Plan for them, strategize around them, keep your avatar in mind. If you can create a content calendar, whether it's for LinkedIn or any of the other publication opportunities we're talking about, it's easier to plan for it than to wake up on a Tuesday and wonder what you're going to write about. So every opportunity you have to schedule that time and to truly create a plan, we would encourage you to take advantage of it. So just elaborating a little bit more on publication opportunities and some ways to find them. Pitching as a contributor. Amy had mentioned Forbes and Business Insider. There's many others as well. They take content from contributing authors. They do each have their own process, so you have to go to their websites and find out what that process looks like. Check them out separately, determine where you can best plug in, and then stay the course to see if you can make something like that happen. Industry and legal publications, look within your field as to what's perhaps most relevant, but then look outside your field for publications that would benefit from your voice. So if you are an M&A lawyer, what are the business publications that would benefit from your voice on a certain topic? If you're a regulatory lawyer, outside of legal regulatory publications, are there other publications that have your target audience, the clients you want, reading their publications that would benefit from hearing what you have to say about a regulatory change or something like that? As mentioned, LinkedIn, whether you're publishing articles or sharing content, take advantage of it. It's at your fingertips every single day. Guest blogging. Anyone who runs a blog often welcomes a guest blogger on a certain topic that you pitch or that they have in mind. It's a great opportunity to get your voice heard and to get your name out there in the writing space. Building relationships all over the place, whether they are with authors, contributing authors, whatever the case is. It's a great way for you to get your content out there through folks that are already plugged in with the various publications. You can also maintain a column. For example, many of the law journals and the business journals have column sections with an author that kind of owns it for a certain amount of time. They rotate, right? They're not going to send you an email, right? Dear Randy, we have a column available. Are you interested? But in having conversations with other people, you start to hear about people leaving the column behind for one reason or another. So keep that on your radar. Newsletters, like Amy mentioned, whether it's your alma mater, a community newsletter, whatever the case is, they provide you a different kind of audience than you may otherwise find in the industry and business publications, but nonetheless a good one. So while your avatar may be mixed in there somewhere and you might want to be strategic, it's a little bit of a kind of a lower barrier to entry in a lot of ways. And again, create your opportunities. Put out your own newsletter, put out your own blog, put out your own content on LinkedIn. Consider platforms like Substack and Medium, which again has a lower barrier to entry. You're still going to get your voice out there. And if the first step is something like your own blog and LinkedIn and Substack and Medium and whatever the case is, it'll help you build your portfolio to lead to other publication opportunities, perhaps for larger publications.
And just before we move on, I stumbled across something that's relevant to this recently that I was really surprised to see. I'm not a real estate lawyer, but I love Zillow, and I'm sure there are plenty of real estate lawyers, just as an example, who are on there fairly regularly as well. I came across articles, which while I was researching and looking into some things that we could to speak to for this presentation, I was surprised to see that. I'd been on Zillow, I don't know how many times before. And so it wasn't something that was obvious at the top of the page with the way we typically do searches. But if you are looking at a website that is connected to your industry, as Randy said, with M&A, giving thought to business publications, Zillow for real estate, if there's something that you look to that you wouldn't think has articles on it, dig a little deeper and look at a little bit more of the content that is on there, maybe a little bit more hidden, because there are opportunities there as well. So when you're preparing to pitch for a publication, you have some homework to do first. There are rules for submission. For example, work usually needs to be original and new. And what new means is that your submission to the publication is the first time that your piece will be out there, so to speak. So they want to be the first ones to have the right to publish the article. And oftentimes articles also need to be a certain length. So maybe you want to, when you're first pitching, have a sense of what that is. If there is, I don't know if there's a standard really for some types of publications where you can have an idea of what the length should be in general before you go writing and have to edit or add or whatever it is. Not that that's the biggest deal, but if there is a trend for the types of publications you'll be looking to, it could be good to know what the parameters are. And as I was just saying about knowing what the rules are for example, for a submission, you want to be able to republish, to post on LinkedIn, for example, if you post someplace else. You want to have the rights to your work and have the ability to reuse and republish as you want. Now, maybe there might be a publication where you think that it's worthwhile, and if the publication will not give you that opportunity to use your piece elsewhere, that you still want to put it there first and only, then that's your decision. But you should know that so that you're making an informed decision. And again, if you don't have an article ready, definitely have some quotes, some topics, some ideas so that you are letting the publication know what you have to offer. And we talked a little bit before about the editorial calendar. The American Lawyer is a great example. If your article is going to have to do with pro bono, for example, they have a pro bono issue every year. You want it to be timely to when they look for submissions for that. So pitching them a pro bono idea the month after they just put that publication out, now you're almost a year away. Yes, it could find another home, but if there is an issue where it really makes sense for your article to be part of it, you want to make sure that you're pitching it at the right time. And also, there's nothing wrong with pitching the same article to multiple publications, and also asking publications what content they may be interested in. I've written several articles based on what somebody tells me they would like to have some, that they're getting questions about and that they would like some input on and an article about. And so don't be afraid as you establish relationships to ask for some input and what the publisher is hearing and is looking for in terms of content.
So another way to get your name in print is to get quoted or featured. So journalists look for quotes and resources for articles that they write literally multiple times a day. So HARO, which we put the website up here and quoted, are two examples. HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. If you subscribe, there's different choices and it's free. You subscribe as someone who wants to receive the requests that the reporters are putting out there. You can get emails. I think the maximum is about 4 times a day, a general one, and then morning, noon, and night, essentially. And they're separated out by topic, and probably best to see all the topics because you might be able to speak to various kind of subsections. They do have tight timelines. So if you get something this morning and you want to turn to it, in a day or two, you've probably missed the opportunity. So it's not to say that you should sit there all day looking for this type of stuff, but just be mindful as the emails come in, what your own calendar looks like and whether or not it's worth your time. Quoted as a bit different. It's a database of needs essentially, and you can respond to a relevant request with your pitch in order to be a source. Again, these are time sensitive. The response rate is not fantastic, but if you are spot on for something, or if you've already drafted something that would kind of answer what they're looking for in a way, it's surely worth a submission. People get picked up by this stuff plenty of times, and it also helps you kind of create a relationship with the publication or the particular reporter who's looking for this. You'll notice on some of the HARO listings, it will tell you what the publication is, and many times you may not have heard of it. Sometimes it's anonymous, and typically when it's anonymous, it's the larger publications that are looking for that quote or that story. Form relationships with those who write for certain publications. So if you're on a publication and the author is listed, connect with them on LinkedIn. If you have a question based on what they've written, email them. Let them know that this is your area of expertise, and if they need a quote in the future, you'd be happy to provide one. It'll help you get published perhaps by sharing a quote. It may also help you get featured, but in any case, it'll help you build your network in a way that will deliver down the line. Being someone that they know that they can turn to, and perhaps give you an avenue for which to pitch your own content at some point. Modern Counsel and Vanguard Law are examples of magazines that do feature attorney profiles. One thing to be aware of is that oftentimes in exchange for being profiled, there might be an expectation that there's a purchase of ads and sponsorship involved. So just keep that in mind as you look to go down that avenue. So we've been talking decently specifically and then a bit generally. So we just wanted to share kind of some examples if we were a data privacy attorney, an M&A attorney, or an IP attorney, and the types of things that are out there. And this is not based on anything Amy and I had in our arsenal of information. We went through the exercise that we're suggesting you go through here. So if you're a data privacy attorney, some speaking opportunities could be, and you can surely go through this list on your own, but the IAPP Global Privacy Summit, PLI's Institute on Privacy and Cybersecurity, the ABA Privacy and Data Security Committee. You might want to write for the Chief Privacy Officer magazine, Global Privacy Law Review, the Cybersecurity Hub, right? So you may have heard of some of these, you may not have, but the idea here is to just go through the exercise, to do some research, nothing even requiring that deep a dive, to see what's out there. And again, some of these I actually found by going to those who are top in these fields at different firms and seeing where they're speaking and seeing where they're writing. So the same type of thing we were suggesting before, look at your competitors. Where are they? And that's probably somewhere you want to consider being.
So just for some examples for M&A attorneys, Tulane's Corporate Law Institute, that's something Randy and I are aware of, but your alma mater, is definitely a place to look what their programming is. But it doesn't have to be your school. We've spoken at other schools as well. The International M&A Conference, the ABA M&A Committee, Women in Private Equity Forum, it really is endless. And for publications, the New York Times Deal Professor doesn't have to be an industry-specific publication, right? The broader journals and newspapers have sections and areas where your voice would be relevant. The Investment Dealers Digest, Deal Lawyers, and for IP attorneys, the ALA Intellectual Property Conference, the annual Fordham IP Conference, the New York State Bar IP section, and then some publications, the Legal Intelligencer out of Philadelphia, just to, keep in mind that every city, every bar association, there are law journals across the country looking for content. The Intellectual Property Watch and Intellectual Property Magazine. Again, this barely scrapes the surface. It's just to give you a few examples and things to just kind of get your wheels turning about ideas. So, what are some of our takeaways? Be strategic and prepared in your outreach and look for opportunities to collaborate. Leverage your relationships and look for synergies. Collaborate with people that you know you have complementary business interests, skills, and networks with. Randy and I did not go to school together. If you haven't heard us speak before, we both went to Tulane. We did not graduate close to the same time. We met at an alumni event several years later. And being here today, having partnered on presentations over the past year, we've done many, and we can personally vouch for the benefits of joining forces with those who can add a perspective and depth to the knowledge that you're looking to share. And always think about ways that you can contribute and add value, because that is what people are looking for. What can you do to help them? So use these speaking and publishing opportunities as a launch pad and cast a wide net in your outreach to organizations and to publications, and appreciate that it is a process. The odds are excellent that you will have to follow up, and then follow up some more. But you'll get there with some diligence.
So wrapping up the takeaways here, again, identify and find your avatar, use your competitors in Google to help you. It's free, it's easy, it's certainly the best place to start. And then start with the low-hanging fruit. Where are you already involved? Where are your contacts involved that you would have a way in? And that would be a great place for you to really launch speaking, writing. If you're already doing it, definitely go back and see if your contacts are places that can help you do even more of it. So finding speaking and publication opportunities, like all business development and career development, it rests on relationship building. That's what a lot of this comes down to. So keep building your relationships, keep this in mind as you look to write and as you look to speak. You can see Amy and my email address here, our phone numbers. You can reach out to us anytime. You'll receive a follow-up to this presentation with a link to the recording, as well as a link to register for our next webinar, which will be at 12 Eastern on March 26th. And the topic is titled Necessary Bricks to Building Your Personal Brand. So we hope that you'll join us then. We're going to turn off the screen share here and start with any questions that we've received in the chat, which are none. So we will open up the floor to questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, anything anyone here wants to talk about for the remainder of the time. So feel free to unmute.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
Great.
What kind of, what would you recommend doing in order to try to get published in an area that's, exceptionally competitive? Or with a publication that's very competitive? How would you go about distinguishing yourself, or what steps would you take to try to get there?
Do you have a topic in mind, or do you just want your name in print in that publication?
The latter.
So,
For now.
Sure. So I can start, and then Amy can follow up. Quite a bit of the things actually we talked about during the presentation. I would spend some time reading the publication to see what they're talking about, and think about where you can add value personally from your practice area, from your expertise, whatever the case is. I would follow certain of the authors and contributors within the publication and see if you can connect outside of the publication, meaning through LinkedIn, through email. I know contributing authors at Forbes who get pitched all the time to write on certain topics. So if there is an existing author who you see is writing frequently in an area in which you can actually add value, that would be the one that I would go to pitch to. And I'd be prepared with other things you've written. So if you've written elsewhere, be prepared to share those. If this is a popular, well-known publication and you haven't written elsewhere, I'd actually suggest trying to get published in simpler ways so that when that author or that reporter starts looking around to see the types of things you've written elsewhere, they have some stuff to find. Amy, you want to add anything?
I would add, also look for holes. Like these very well-known publications sometimes have blind spots. I mean, every publication usually has some great coverage and some points that they're missing that definitely could be addressed. And so a great way to get in the door is to look at what they're missing out on and pitch addressing whatever that topic is that would be valuable to their readers that they're not covering, whether it's that they're not covering it all or they're not covering it in as much detail or from the angle or perspective that you would bring to it. So that's an opportunity with the larger publications to make some inroads as well.
I'd also add, if you're at a firm that has a marketing team, that marketing team likely has a lot of these relationships, and their time is well spent in helping you for you and for your firm secure the real estate in these publications, for lack of a better term. So I would definitely plug them in as well. And the other thing I'd say is also don't get discouraged if you feel like everything's been talked about. It's not always the idea of creating something new. It's oftentimes a different perspective or a different voice. And then lastly, one thing I've learned in terms of writing for various publications and what I'm writing for now is they favor lists in a lot of ways. So it doesn't have to be straight text. It could be top 10 ways, top 5 reasons to, and so on, right? If you think about when you're reading, if you see bulleted lists, there's kind of like a little bit of a sense of, oh, okay, like I can compartmentalize this in my head. So same thing for these readers generally. So a lot of these publications like that setup. It seems because their writers like that setup.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone have any experience they want to share or any other thoughts or questions? What's worked for you? What you're struggling with?
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I just was hoping that you could repeat. You said Vanguard is a publication that's often looking for attorney contributions. I just kind of missed what you had said and what those two publications were.
So we gave Modern Counsel and Vanguard Law as the examples of magazines that feature attorney profiles, which is different than contributions. But as a lawyer, you can contribute to the legal publications and the business publications, right? There's just value you can add on both, whether it's, and we went through the list of Business Insider, Entrepreneur, Inc., all of those and many more, Above the Law and JD Supra as legal ones. And then of course, all the law journals and whatnot.
Okay.
Is that
And
easier?
The thing with Modern Counsel and Vanguard Law magazine, their features are terrific and they're high profile and really do some nice deep dives if you can get featured. But they will, if you're in-house, ask your outside counsel, for example, to buy ads. So it can be a little bit tricky. I know people who've been approached about being featured who were horrified and would never consider even asking their general counsel for permission to do it. And then I know people who have been featured where it's great for the company, it's great for the firm supporting the person who's being profiled, and it's a win-win all around. It's just, again, something to be aware of, that it's out there and just has to be navigated.
there are just these pay to play models that exist, but then there are plenty that are not structured that way. Of course, it's a little bit simpler to pay to play because there's a price tag, you pay it, and then you're there. But there's other, I get it from my alma mater regularly where there's a feature of a lawyer somewhere across the country, and the distribution is large in those types of publications too. So think where your audience is, think if there's money you want to put behind this or not. I'd probably suggest starting elsewhere. And once you're out there in let's say a pay for play model and you have a feature, people will start looking you up on your website, on your LinkedIn. It's valuable to have stuff there for them to see that you've done elsewhere. So I guess I would say, do some of the free stuff first so that there are links for them to click so they can read what you've done, right? You're on a stage once that happens. So you just want to have your best foot forward when you're there.
And LinkedIn is the obvious starting point for that. You don't have to research anything or look into any contacts. If you have something that you want to say that is relevant, you can post an article on your page. If you're a part of a group that is relevant and your article has to do with your practice area, there is zero barrier to get over. You just post it. It's that simple. To go back to the paid model, again, I've also been approached. There are publications where there are articles that look like they're straight up articles, but you're paying for that placement essentially. So that is something else to be aware of if you did want to put some money in. Of course, you have to look into the ethics and compliance for all that stuff as well, but that is advertising that looks like an article as well.
One thing to mention in all of this, and I think as lawyers, it's just important to highlight this. I think we are all trained to cross every T and dot every I and really aim for perfection. And I think it's a good way to be at. Amy and I are that way. We're trained lawyers as well. But there does come a point, well, two things. There does come a point when done is better than perfect. So I am not suggesting you send things in with typos and errors and miscites and things like that. But I am suggesting at some point, you may think the language can be better. You may think you can say it better. You should definitely read it the 10, 20 times you will, but at some point, submit it and turn it in and move on. The other thing is these are not, unless you are strategically drafting one, these are not white papers requiring blue book cites either. So if you do cite to someone, you have to credit him or her and whatnot, but you're not doing blue book citation here. And you're not creating 100 long page white papers either. You can start literally with a blog that's 1,000 words and you're in print. And I don't know what the ROI is necessarily on that versus the white paper, but you have to think about your time as well because you have full-time jobs of practicing law and you're trying to get this in as another business development strategy, career development strategy. So just kind of make the appropriate time to do it.
Because there is an element of, Randy's exactly right. You're creating a presence. And most people, especially we go back to LinkedIn as example, Randy talked about posting in addition to articles, people are glancing. They're not reading for detail, to her point about that it doesn't need to be perfect. It's a matter of getting your point across and creating a presence where people are aware of you.
And just because one publication says no, does not mean every publication says no. I have a client I work with, a partner at a law firm. She wrote something, a big publication said no, she threw her hands up in the air, they don't want it. Sure enough, it was picked up 2 or 3 days later by another publication. So don't feel like just because, corporate counsel says no, that the ABA Law Journal will too.
And same with the speaking engagements, right? Randy and I have had people say no to us the same day that we've had somebody else say, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. We would love for you to present to us. So keep going.
I do have another question. I'm currently working with an editor at a magazine, and I threw out our ideas. I said I'd love to collaborate. I think it'd be mutually beneficial for both of our industries, and she was receptive. We had a phone conversation. I followed up by email with some content ideas. She responded like a week or two later and said, I'm sorry, I'm still getting around to this. I'll try to make some time today to take a deeper look. That was about 2 weeks ago. How do you suggest I proceed? I think they're current or so I was going to wait until after that when they start work on the new issue, but do you have a different idea?
Just, Michelle, a couple follow-up questions. Is there a specific topic she's interested in? And is there an editorial calendar she's working with, like a timeline that you know about?
So their upcoming issue is about diversity. It's a diversity issue.
And that's the one you're writing for. Is that right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
And the diversity issue is the one that you're trying to write for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be a ton of stuff on her plate. It could be working through the details. I would certainly create a cadence for follow-up with her. If there's some type of, if you've done in the interim, actually, if there are things you can share that you've written, or that if you could write things and get them simply published through LinkedIn or through a blog that you want to share with her, that might be another way to kind of lean in. You know, I'm looking forward to writing for your magazine on this topic. I've written a couple of things recently that I thought you'd be interested in seeing. You know, so she sees you're out there, you're passionate about this, you're relevant. If there's certain topics she is specifically interested in, I wouldn't write elsewhere on those topics necessarily, at least not directly. But if you could take another angle and you could kind of, she can get a sense of your style of writing and your voice, I think something like that could be helpful. Amy, anything?
No, I think well said.
Does that help?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, for the folks on this call, are you actively writing and speaking, or are you looking to start? If you want to share, is there any help you could use in brainstorming?
Hi, this is Crystal. I am looking to start writing and speaking. I haven't been active in doing so yet.
And do you have topics in mind and an avatar?
I have topics in mind. Again, I haven't really researched publications yet or where I should start, but I'm a commercial real estate lawyer, and I specialize in tenant side commercial leasing. Although my practice is much more broad-based than that, I do financings on the lender side and acquisitions and sales, representing both purchasers and sellers. So, but I would say that my real specialty is commercial leasing, and that's something that I want to start writing and speaking on.
I mean, it's so interesting, right? For so many topics right now, real estate. I know Magdalena's an employment lawyer, employment, like these topics are so, I mean, they're relevant always, but there's just so many new and different issues that people are dealing with now that they've never dealt with before. So it's a great time to start this. As Amy mentioned, right? Zillow, it's not, I don't think it's commercial, but there's others out there that you probably didn't necessarily think about. I didn't actually think about Zillow until Amy had shared it with me by email, but there's just so many opportunities out there. So I would say certainly plan for it, kind of plug in like we talked about, but at some point just get some stuff out there, jump in, and it starts to roll off the tongue, kind of no pun intended, but you start writing, people start responding, and then some of the responses you get to what you write help you generate your next topic, right? You start hearing what people are interested in talking about and whatnot. So definitely get out there. And of course, if we can help you, you can feel free to reach out to either of us.
Definitely. Thanks so much. I thought this presentation was really, really great and helpful, and is going to help me really start brainstorming, and I'll definitely stay in touch.
Great.
Thank you.
Could I just chime in?
Sure.
Oh, okay. So going into what Crystal was talking about, well, I'm also just beginning. But what I found interesting is joining one of the hot topics groups in my Westchester Bar Association in the Employment Law Committee. We just had one last week where we were talking about the developments, obviously, with respect to COVID and how it's going to impact our future cases, our current cases, the types of security measures, protocols from the employer side and from the employee side, vaccinations, are they required, HIPAA laws. So I'm going to definitely continue with my committee and my bar group to kind of help me think of really interesting creative ideas. And then that goes into the topics bucket as far as maybe publishing or learning more on that issue so I can contribute.
So you're bringing up a great point, Magdalena. Thanks for doing it. Actually, two great points. One is the bar associations are fantastic for many reasons. And Amy and I are very involved in particularly the New York City Bar Association. It's a platform, it's a built-in audience. That's actually how this 30 and 30 webinar came about. It's through work we did at the City Bar that was just sold out every time we were doing it. But it creates a platform, and you don't necessarily have to just be the speaker. And this is from a business development perspective. You can be the organizer and the facilitator. So you could find 3 or 4 speakers on a topic who can speak to the point you want the panel to talk about, and you can facilitate the discussion among them. And again, they're all, I know you're in private practice, they're all people you want. They are all your avatar, right? They are all the people you want to be your audience. The other thing is, I would say if you could turn every type of speaking or writing opportunity into 2 or 3 things more, it's time well spent. So if you conduct a panel or if you speak, go write an article about it, go co-write, and vice versa. Go push it out as a webinar or a lunch and learn to your clients on the same topic, right? You've already done the legwork. That recycle it, repurpose it, reuse it in multiple ways, all based on the initial work you did to get it there.
And the one thing, just to piggyback on the co-panelists and being the moderator and inviting people in, you can target people that are part of your network, but also people that you really want to know it all or get to know better, and give them the opportunity to be heard, because everyone is, maybe not absolutely everyone, but most people are looking for those opportunities to have a platform and have an opportunity to share. And so you're doing something for them. And then, as Randy said, you follow up and can build on that. Maybe you collaborate in the future, but it's great from an opportunity to build your network, but also to give someone else a platform to help keep you in mind that you did something for them.
And the Westchester Bar is a great organization. Isabel's always their executive director is always looking for content and good programming, and she's really leaning into what that community wants. So it's a good place to be.
And then also you have your own group, but then a lot of times the bar programs are co-sponsored. And so another committee that you aren't familiar with can help broaden your audience. You haven't done any extra work. They just say, hey, this would be another group that would be worthwhile to collaborate with. You still do what you were going to do, and now you have twice the audience.
Anything else before we wrap? Okay, well, if anything comes up, you can feel free to reach out to either of us. We hope to see you in March, and we thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.